Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control with Fred Staab and Les Jackson. We are glad you're along for the ride, and we've got a great segment coming up. We're celebrating a birthday in the automotive industry, 57 years young, the Ford Mustang. And who better to tell us about it than Ted Ryan, who is Ford's Archives and Heritage Brand Manager. Now, Ted, you should tell us where you are and what you're doing.
Well, right now I'm at Michigan Central Station, and I am sitting in a 2021 Mach 1 Mustang as we're doing a Mustang Day rally. Over 250 Mustangs were here, everything from a 1964 and a half vintage one. I saw a bunch of GTs out here, and we're doing a 20-mile run to Ann Arbor, and then we're going to end up at Ford's garage in Dearborn, the home of the Mustang.
Gee, I must have lost my invitation to that, Ted. I was looking all over for it.
Well, Ted, we always say you have one of the best jobs, and I think out of any of the brands, Ford does a great job, and it's probably due to you, of keeping the archives going and keeping them open. And we wanted to look at some of the early designs of the Mustang. And there was a bit of a competition, wasn't there, between a bunch of different groups within Ford to come up with the Mustang look. I guess they were given marching orders. Hey, we want a two-door sporty car, basically around this size, and then let's see what you got, right?
You had it 100% correct. There was a competition. It was a quick one, too. We knew that we needed a sporty car to appeal to the youth market. So they had the three different design studios from Ford compete against each other. Lincoln Mercury, Advanced, which had just brought us the GT, or was in the middle of bringing us the GT, and then the Ford studio. And they each submitted different clay models. You've got the driver's side of the Ford studio entry. That was the one that was eventually chosen. In a minute, I think you'll show the passenger side, and you'll notice a little bit different. So those 8 clay models, can you put yourself back on August 16th, 1962, and you've got Henry Ford II, Lee Iacocca, Don Fry, William Clay Ford, all looking at these clay models, picking out what is going to be the sporty car for Ford.
Where was this happening? It was outside. Today, someone would fly a drone over there, and it would be on YouTube like in 5 minutes. I see a Thunderbird in the back there.
You do.
And
this was the design studio.
Now, the look of the Mustang that eventually got chosen, it had a little bit different headlight system, sort of an oval headlight system, maybe a European system, which looked actually really good, but I guess they just couldn't get that past the U.S. NHTSA team probably at the time. But really, when you look at the design that the Ford Group came up with, except for the passenger side, which has a different sort of vent in the quarter panel, it looks very close to the Mustang that came out.
It does. And in the background, you can see some of the other entries. That other one you saw, the Lincoln Mercury in the background. That design, this was at the courtyard of the design studio. And they always did 2 showings for every clay. The round building that you can see behind you and on the left in the photo was the interior of the design studio. But in natural light, the cars look different. So they always brought them outdoors as well.
Yeah.
So every showing, 2 different showings, indoors and outdoors.
All right. And was that badge just to the on the side, just to the rear of the headlight? Was that an engine, V8 or 260, 289?
It was an engine moniker. And if you go back to that photo, you'll note that the logo on the front, the animal on the front of the car, is not a horse. It's actually a cougar. Because at this particular point in time, the project was being called the Special Falcon Project. So essentially, they're taking the Falcon frame and trying to figure out how to put a sports car on it. It was also called the T5, but the Cougar was the leading name for it all the way up until the end of it.
Wow!
When they switched over to Mustang.
Yeah.
Now let's look a little bit at what the Lincoln Mercury Group had involved, and it's interesting to me. You have the Lincoln Mercury designers now designing a Ford. Was that common, Ted, to have different marks within the brand kind of designing for each other? Was it just an art thing, like let's get as many ideas as possible, I guess?
It was a competition. It was a Lee Iacocca driven competition where he said, let's do this, but let's make sure that we've got the best minds that Ford Motor Company has to offer, and have them compete against each other. So all the different studios didn't typically compete like this. I see elements of what later became the Mercury Capri on that one.
Yeah.
On that one, and the first one, we saw there are elements of what became the 67 Cougar, Mercury Cougar.
Yeah, exactly. So no good idea gets wasted, guys.
No. We are talking with Ted Ryan, who is Ford's Archives and Heritage Brand Manager, sitting in a brand new Mach 1 Mustang, getting ready to roll out. He's got a great Mustang Day sweatshirt on there, which I think looks really cool. Let's look at the other group that was trying to build the next Mustang. And this was, what do they call them? A special design group?
Special vehicles group, special design. But essentially, that was the team that would later bring us the Ford GT40.
Wow.
And they did the concept cars, the show cars. So they had done the Mustang one previously. I think that's the Allegra there. I'm going from memory, which was another one of the concept cars that directly led to the Mustang itself.
Some of these designs, like the tail lights, they were
62 T-Bird there.
Yeah.
Yep.
They really recycled these for down the line. Like, hey, it's a good idea on that grill. But
now, see, that's a 67 Ford Fairlane.
Fairlane, yeah.
That looks like an Opal in the front. That one.
That looks Opalish, yeah.
I like the hood scoop, though. So this is what's great, Ted. It gives us an idea. Everyone was trying their best, and I don't know whether we're just used to it, but thank God the Mustang came out the way it did. Some of these other designs, while they may have been good for another car, or elements of them were certainly integrated into other cars, I'm glad the Mustang came out the way it did.
I'm with you. And for your listeners, if they want to see all these pictures on their own too, they can go to media.ford.com. And I'm excited. We released not only these photos, but we released a number of documents. You can see the actual blue letter signed by Lee Iacocca going to Henry Ford II, authorizing the beginning of the Mustang program, dated December 1962. And you can read the rationale behind why we wanted a Mustang. We had to compete with the Monza. It was there. We were losing the youth market, and Lee Iacocca was determined to create a sporty car that would appeal to the youth market. I always like to say that a generation was looking for its own car. They wanted their own music, and they got Elvis and the Beatles. They wanted their own car, and they got the Mustang.
I think that's true. And there's something about the look of the Mustang, which in and of itself is just something everybody sort of fell in love with it.
From the very beginning, it's not too many things that are an instant classic, but the numbers are astounding. We sold 1 million Mustangs in the first 2 years, and we documented the Mustang mania, where people were sleeping outside of dealerships to be the first one in the next day to buy it. On the first day, 22,000 orders alone on the very first day, April 17th, 1964. I've got a picture of me and my dad in his 66 Mustang, and I've got a picture of me and my boys with my 2021 Mustang. So it's a car that still gives.
Wow. Yeah, that is amazing. It really is. And let's think about this. This was smart business sense too. They basically took the Falcon, which was an inexpensive car, and made it into a sporty car, and a sporty car that everyone could buy, or most people could buy.
And they did it, and the cost, and if people go to the website, media.ford.com, and look at those documents, you'll see that cost was a critical factor. We needed to keep the costs low because the new generation didn't have much money. You couldn't build an expensive car. So the base cost was low, but then you could accessorize it. You could turn it into anything you wanted. You could make it a muscle car. You could make it, you could keep it plain and keep the cost down. Out of the first million, this is my favorite Mustang stat of all time. 889,000 people got them with radios, but 110,000 people didn't. Can you imagine owning a Mustang?
Wow.
You own a Mustang, but you don't get a radio. That makes
the radio must have been about $8.
They didn't want pop for the $8 AM radio. And probably, Ted, those are very collectible because they have the blank off plate in there with no radio in there. But yeah, really neat stuff. We were talking with Ted Ryan, Ford's Archive and Heritage Brand Manager. Ted, I hope you can keep with us after the break because we've got plenty more information we'd like to learn about the Mustang, and we're celebrating. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there. We will be right back after the break with more Cruise Control and Ted Ryan live from the cockpit of a Mach 1 Mustang, which is pretty exciting. And he will give us more about the history and what's going on currently with the Mustang. So stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. And welcome back to Cruise Control. We're glad you're along for the ride. I'm Fred Staab. He is none other than Les Jackson. And we are talking about incredible vehicles, of course. That's the Mach E, which is an incredible vehicle, and we're going to be talking more about that. But we were talking with Ted Ryan, who is sitting in a Mach 1 Mustang somewhere in Michigan, right, Ted?
I'm right outside of Michigan Central Station in Corktown, Michigan is what it's called. The giant train station that Ford is restoring. And I'll flip my camera around before we end and show you where it is.
That's why the caboose was there at the front gate.
Yes, that's it.
And where now, when you join in with the I guess the caravan, how many miles will you drive?
It's about a 25-mile round trip circuit. We're going to drive from the Michigan Central to Ann Arbor. We're going to drive by Hagerty headquarters. We're going to go to Ypsilanti, down through Plymouth, and we're going to finish at the famous Ford's Garage. If anybody's been to Dearborn, it's a classic place that has a series of. I'm going to turn the camera on for a second. You can see another Mach 1 driving in.
Oh yeah.
That's a sweet color, isn't it?
Yeah, I
that
can't.
Is. It's an interesting grayish. Yeah. I guess it's gray.
It's almost got a little GT40 look in there with the orange and the stripe there.
It does, and believe me, for Ford employees, for the media staff in particular, when we get to take out these cars, it is such a special moment. So she just took it around for a quick spin and bringing it back, and then somebody else is going to get to drive it after it's been sanitized. So it's a great day. It's a fun day that brings Mustang lovers together. We're celebrating the 57th birthday of Mustang, and we're doing it in grand style. Before we get off today, too, guys, I'm going to have to start my car and let you listen to the rumble.
Oh yeah, do it. We like the audio. Here we go.
Yeah, this doesn't.
Hold on, I'm in sport mode now. Not a bad sound there.
I don't hear it.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, you're not hearing it? Oh, no. Hold on.
Oh, now
we hear it. Yeah. I thought you were in the good neighbor mode there, Ted.
No, I had to hold the phone outside the car to get the sound.
Cool stuff. No, that sounds like a great thing. I mean, was the Mustang's future ever in doubt?
Yeah, quite a few times actually. The oil crisis hit hard, and there was question as to whether we should continue it in the 70s. Luckily, the one being designed at that moment was a smaller, more fuel efficient one. And there have been other times, but not anymore. Frankly, the Mustang for the second year in a row is the best selling sports car in the world. Best selling sports car in the world, guys. 15% of the global market is
crazy.
Mustangs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's always been Ford versus Chevy, and it seems like you're winning that hands down when it comes versus Camaro. And I've always said that one of the reasons that I can see out of the Mustang, I can't see out of the Camaro. It's just which is always fun to do when you're driving to see where you're going.
And the Mustang appeals to a broader segment of the population. More women are drawn to Mustangs
from the beginning. 42% of them, 42% of sales the first 2 years were to women.
Wow!
So it's always been a car that appeals to all demographics. To me, Mustang can be summarized in 3 words: design, power, and fun.
Wow!
That's what a Mustang has always been. It's beautifully designed, particularly when Shelby got a hold of them. Powerful, and they're just fun cars to own and fun cars to drive.
Yeah, you look at the current ones, I think they're beautiful. I really do. And the fact that there's so many different specialty models available, and just a GT is a great car. As you were saying, one of the best sounding cars from the factory. You don't need to do anything to it. But if you do want to do something to it, Ford Performance Parts has some great things you can bolt on. Also, one of the most modifiable cars, the most parts out there. Now, there's the Mach E. We can certainly see that's the Mach E GT. We can certainly see the lineage comes through, doesn't it?
It does, and the Mach E people, Mustang aficionados had a little bit of an issue when we put the pony badge on the Mach E, but I think that the proof is in the pudding. It's a sporty car, it's a stylish car, it's a powerful car. You know, when you turn
Oh
on your
yeah.
lights, the lights come on. When you hit the light switch, when you hit the accelerator in a electric, it goes. You don't have the delays that you have with internal combustion. So it's powerful, it's sporty, and it's fun. Everything I just described of a Mustang is what the Mach E has, and so far it's getting rave reviews.
Yeah, I think you could probably make the case that especially in a vintage one, but most any of them, every hour you spend in a Mustang doesn't count toward your life.
Wow, that will really increase. Ted, you better
It's
get
like
going on those sales
it's
there.
like I don't think you can guarantee that.
Well,
They're doctor recommended, my Ford
Yeah,
Mustang.
I love it, and to me the Mustang itself, it's a different vehicle. And you talked about the Camaro, but to me the Mustang, it doesn't really have a competition. I know it does, but it's its own nameplate. It and Bronco and F Series, and then the Performance are what stand apart at Ford. When you hear Ford GT, you know what you're seeing. When you hear Mustang, you know the identifiable symbols that come with just a nameplate. And for how many vehicles have had a 57-year uninterrupted nameplate life? Not too many.
No.
And it's exciting for the Mustang.
Yeah, we are talking with Ted
it
Ryan, who
is.
is Ford's Archives and Heritage Brand Manager. Ted, here's the question. When you go to these events, do you see any Mustang 2s or the elusive hatchback Mustang 2, which I thought was a good car? I mean, it maybe didn't have a lot of power, but I thought it kind of looked nice with the body color bumpers.
I didn't see any today, but I do at Woodward Dream Cruise. When and if we ever get to do another Dream Cruise, you'll see some Mustang 2s. You see a lot of the Shelby, a lot of the people who are going to show up with their Mustangs that usually either have a vintage one that's been restored perfectly. I saw a couple of 289s out there, or you'll see a lot of GT 350s and GT 500s and a lot of Shelby Guardsman Blue. Paint schemes, a lot of red ones. There was a
Yep.
special one today, guys. It's a guy in Michigan, and he did his Mustang as a tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
right, and it's
Red-tail.
done, yeah, exactly as one of the planes was done with the pilot's name and everything, and the kill symbols on the side of the car. And once again, people have a passion for Mustang, and their passions come through in the way that they showcase the Mustangs.
And is that true that it was named after the P-51D Mustang? Because let's face it, we weren't that far out of World War II, and the Mustang
It
was a
was.
great plane.
It had a dual naming dichotomy, the P-51 Mustang, but that was the Mustang 1 initially. But as we mentioned earlier, Cougar was being strongly considered as a nameplate. But eventually they came back to the Mustang 1 and the equity that had been built there and the P-51. But then at the same time, we know that the Bronco is being planned. So the idea was to have a Western theme in a stable. So the very first press announcement announced this for the Broncos, said, you know, another pony in the stable. So the name was changed just months before everything was finalized on the car to change it over to Mustang. Thank goodness.
And I remember World's Fair, right? It was revealed in the New York World's Fair. I remember, I believe they had a display where you could ride in them. You know, they were on a track or something. They weren't, and the wheel was locked in place. I remember sitting, I think, on my dad's lap saying, I can't turn the steering wheel. How can I drive this thing? The thing is locked in place.
100% correct. Introduced at the New York World's Fair, and that ride was actually designed by Walt Disney. And you got in, not initially. Initially, you got in different Ford vehicles, and you went around this ride. But halfway through the World's Fair, they changed them all over to be Mustangs. So you would sit in a Mustang and take a ride, a Walt Disney journey through time.
All right. Well, Ted, we always have to have you back because you take us back into the world of Ford, and that's great. We appreciate it. Hey, it's time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We are going to see you down the road.
Bye.
Cruise Control Radio is your on-air automotive magazine. Go to www.cruisecontrolradio.com for more information.